Hello Steelers, welcome to another bench report hobby update. This week has been, I think it's relatively quiet to be honest, painting and gaming wise, but we'll go through it and see if I can remember everything that I've done. I kind of returned to the jungles of Vietnam. And I've been painting for the last couple of weeks actually. I've been painting these plastic Battlefront Hueys. These are ones that I bought. Dean had given me some other ones. He gave me the old resin ones, and I'd actually painted one of the Hogs that he'd given to me. Now the thing is, I was actually spray varnishing this, and I've got it stuck onto the end of a paint, and I was doing it out of the window, and I was thinking to myself, this is going to fall off, this will fall off. And what happened? The bloody thing fell off. So it broke. It landed 2 stories down and it broke. So I was so annoyed that I've just not gone back to it. My own stupid fault. This is a warning to everybody. You know, go downstairs and go outside if you spray varnishing. But I'd also painted a couple of plastic Hueys as well. These are the Battlefront ones. These are really nice kits. However, I don't know why I really struggled with them. It wasn't the making of them. They went together like a dream. It was kind of the painting of them. And I love painting vehicles. I really enjoy it. I like all the weathering. I like all the other bits and pieces, just the detailing stuff on them, doing the decals. I love all that stuff. But these, for some reason, were an absolute and utter pig. I think it's possibly because they're kind of they're round, the bodies are round, so it's difficult to actually hold on to them or to find somewhere that you can, basically stick them onto a bottle or something just so you can hold them. Whereas with a tank, you can just literally stick a bottle with super glue on the bottom of them and it doesn't matter because nobody ever sees the bottom of a tank. So with the helicopters, then I kind of had the inspired idea that nobody really sees the bottom of the helicopters either, so why don't I just stick a bottle to them? So I did, and it slowly I actually managed to get these painted. But they were really nice vehicles. I'm a little worried after the issues that I've had with making the Hog out of the metal and the resin, to go back and look at the other ones that Dean did give me. I don't want to waste them, you see, but I'm thinking about maybe just getting a load of plastic ones and then just adding the Hogs extra weapons and things to those ones. So I don't know, we'll think about it in future. But I also as well started experimenting as well. You might remember last week I got myself some dust sheet, plastic bag dust sheet. I talked to Joe Bilton. He'd been featured recently both on Yorkshire Ken's podcast and also on the WSS podcast as well, talking about scenery, and I had a chat with him on Twitter, and he said to get some of this dust sheet stuff. I will put a link to it in the description down below so you can get hold of it yourself as well, and basically using cork, builder's cork, which you can just get at any hardware store. So I got this sheet, and it was I think it's something like 3 meters by 4 meters, so it's more sheet than I will ever use in a lifetime, but I've got it. So I experimented and I started working on a field, a little plowed field, 50mm. Very simple, just got some cork, just added some crappy acrylic brown paint to it, slapped that on, then I just scored in plough lines, dry brushed it, and that was literally it, apart from adding flock on the edge. The only thing that I suggest to do if you're doing this is to put some PVA glue on the bottom of it once it's all dry, because otherwise it does curl up and the PVA will help it pull itself back into shape again. But I haven't done any more of those, but I realised how quick and easy that was. Then I thought, well, I'm actually looking at doing the next Chitra scenario with decks in the next couple of weeks, and we need some paddy fields for that, and I've got some paddy fields, and I've done them on plastic card in the past, and I've actually got a tutorial coming up about those. It's all made, it's just waiting to be released over the next few weeks at some point. But they're only quite small, so you'd have to make a lot of them, and they take up a lot of storage. And I thought to myself, what's the best way of doing this? Well, I've got this big sheet of dust sheet, and again I talked to Joe about this, and we discussed various options and things, and I thought, well, I'll do the paddy fields with this. Very simple stuff to do. Basically cut out the sheet that you need, because in the Jitra campaign there's paddy fields all over the table, so you really need to cover it in paddy fields. It's quite a difficult thing to do if you don't have that many, I think. So I thought, well, if I just do a couple of big dust sheet style ones of it. The first one was an experiment in the first place. I like what I've done with it. I haven't finished it off yet. This is basically as far as I've got with it, because I haven't really done anything more with it. But this one I did with cling film. So I took sheets of cling film and I basically glued it down with PVA glue into the areas to create that water effect, because resin and also varnish will crack. So I decided not to go with that because I wanted them as flexible as possible for storage as much as anything else. But it took almost a week. I'm recording this on Friday and I think I started it on Monday, and it's still in places, still wet to the PVA, because there's no air getting into the underneath the cling film. So it's not particularly practical, because these are quite big sheets and I don't want them just sitting about waiting to dry while I'm trying to do other stuff in the war. I've only got a certain amount of space to work in. So what I did was I went back and I had a rethink, and my second set of paddy fields, a much bigger set, this is the version 2, instead of doing quite large fields, I did smaller fields and just kind of cut it up a little bit into smaller rectangles. And again, all I did was use the cork just to make the barrier, the bund around the top. I added sand to that while it was still wet. Then when that was dry, then I just knocked all the sand off. Then I sprayed it in burnt umber spray, and then just gave it a dry brushing around the edge, and then just painted a mud colour on the base of each of the fields themselves. And then, this was the other thing, I got Mod Podge gloss varnish, and I put that on, and this has worked really well because it is flexible, so it works really well. So this is the way I'm going to go. I'm going to do a couple more of these sheets of this size, because like I said, I need them for the Jitter campaign, just to cover the area. Also, they were great for Vietnam as well, of course. But then all I did then was get some a small brush, blobs of super glue, and then just added flock static grass as the rice blobs themselves, and then just added a bit of static grass around the edges. And I'm pretty happy with it. And I actually took it down to the club as well on Thursday to use in the game, and I think it worked pretty well. I'm going to be using it as well this weekend over at Lard Workshop, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on, which is kind of why I've not really done a lot of other things, because I've kind of been prepping for that, and this is one of the things I've been preparing. So that is all sorted, I think, and I'm quite happy with how that turned out, to be honest, and I'm looking forward to making others because they are dead easy. The only thing is the drying time, and you just, obviously they're quite big things. So hopefully over the next few weeks I'll make a couple more of those style of paddy fields at some point. I know some people have asked for a tutorial on it, so I'll try and make one if I remember when I'm making the next ones, but obviously don't expect that out for quite a while. So I've had actually nothing in the post. I've realised that, again, that I've got so much stuff for the epic stuff. I've got so much stuff for Vietnam stuff to do, and so much terrain to make as well in other bits and pieces, that there's just no point buying anything. So I literally haven't. There has been nothing coming through the post this week, hobby-wise. A couple of paints or glue, and that's been about it, to be honest. No hobby things. However, this weekend, this week at the club, this is Friday, I'm recording this, so it was last night, Thursday night, I took down a game which I'm going to be putting on at Steel Lard, at Lard Workshop, which I'll tell you more about in a second. And it's the Malaya game. It was basically the last of the Malaya campaign game from the 1942 pint-sized campaign. Dex and I had played this, and I thought it was a really good scenario as an introduction to the Far East. So I gathered Dean, Paul and Chris together to play the game. It was Paul and Chris were playing as the attacking Japanese against the defending Australians held by Dean. A very interesting game. The Japanese have basically got to capture the bridge and hold it. In their game, the Japanese basically got their Hack-Go tank, their Type 95, and just barreled it straight down the road at that bridge, scattering the Australian defenders as they did. They got down there, but then it got knocked out by the 2-pounder that the Australians had. Dean I was despairing. He'd put all his figures on the table literally in the first phase, even before the Japanese had shown their hand, and I was just tearing my hair out. So just wait, you're the defender, just wait. But Dean will never listen to me, and to be fair to him, his defence was pretty good and pretty strong. The Japanese attacked. They got held up in the paddy fields on their right flank, but they pushed forward on the left flank, got around the buildings, and then they did try to do an attack, and it could have gone either way. They attacked a very fresh Australian platoon with 2 platoons of Japanese, but they came off worse, and it was really down to the dice rolls, because I think the Australians had something like 26 dice against the Japanese 27 dice in the end. So it was a real close call, even for 2 platoons against 1. Which just shows you, really, in chain of command, you really need to hammer those defenders before you go in with a close assault. But the Japanese got through a pushback. The other guys in the paddy field then got pinned by the Australian MMG, and it was literally, they got 2 sections at that point pinned. It was going to take a long time to get rid of that shock. They were still halfway across the table, so they gave the game to Dean. In the other game that I'd played previously with Dex is we played the Malaya campaign a while back. You may remember from the reports on this, and Dex was able to actually capture the bridge and push through, so it can be done. It was just a difficult ask for the particular Japanese commanders on that particular day. But I am going to be taking this game to Steel Lard. Sorry, not Steel. I keep calling it Steel Lard. It's not. It's Lard Workshop. It's the one in Nottingham, not in Sheffield. This is this Saturday, so when you see this on Sunday, I will have already been and finished at Lard Workshop. I'm not taking my camera to film it, but I will be filming bits and pieces on my phone. I am running 2 games, so I'm going to be running this Malaya game both in the morning and afternoon, so how much chance I actually get to go around and have a look at some of the tables is anybody's answer, basically. I really don't know what's I'm going to be tied up umpiring 2 games, basically, so don't expect much from that, but I will give you a full report on it in a few weeks. The reason I say a few weeks is because I am off to Otterburn to manage an excavation, archaeological excavation, that I've been managing for the last 3 years. This is our last crack at it, so we're going to be up there with some veterans and the local Reedsdale archaeological group as well, doing some volunteer work, excavating some of the ranges at Otterburn on a possible Romano-British farmstead. We're not entirely sure at this point, even now, 3 years in. So I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. I'm going to be pretty much away from the internet as well for most of it, because you can't. There's bits, there's bits and snippets that you can get in at Otterburn, but not much. So you won't see anything from me and the channel for a few weeks for now, so it's a bit of a summer break from my point of view, but once I'm back I'll give you a full update, not only on Lard Workshop but anything else that I've done as well. One more thing that I wanted to mention is I was going through my old blog, the Storm and Steel blog, which is where the name of the channel comes from, which I'd started, it's probably going on for 15 years ago now, and I realised that we had actually played a game of the Chang Lun attack, but this was for rapid fire, and we'd done it about 10 years ago, and I'd taken photos of the game and put them on the blog. I'll put a link to the blog down in the description below. I think it might already be down there, but I'll put one down there anyway. And I just realised how different my tables look now compared to what they did then. So here's a couple of comparison pictures. The first one is how it looked when we first played it. I thought this was great. I thought it looked like a great table, to be honest. I was really happy with all the in inverted commas jungle terrain that I got. But we played it down the club just a couple of weeks ago, Dex and I, and this is how it looks now. And to be honest, it's there's 10 years between those 2 photographs, and you can certainly tell the difference. I think, slightly 2 different games, rapid fire and chain of command, but a massive difference on the table itself. And this is a bit of a public service announcement, just to say to people who get into wargaming early on and just think they want to get stuff on the table as quick as possible, and then get kind of overwhelmed by it. Just work at it. That's it. Just pick away. This was just built up over years, just putting things together slowly and surely, and it didn't all come overnight at once. But I was happy with the table, and I hope you liked it anyway. Right, I will wrap up there. No more rambling. Do check out my Warlord Games affiliate link down below if you're buying anything from Warlord. I know a lot of people are going to be jumping on that Hannibal box set and things, so do check that out. And I know that also Bolt Action is coming out soon, I think in September, version 3. So, you know, use my affiliate link if you don't mind for that, and I just get a bit of a kickback. Also, if you haven't done, please do subscribe. It's free and you will get updates like this whenever I put these out. And also, if you want to help out the channel as well, please check out the Patreon and the channel memberships, and all the money will go back into making better films and videos for you about historical wargaming. And I will see you in the next Storm of Steel video.